The following is a special video presentation from the Las Vegas Review-Journal. You are watching RJ Debates 2020. Here is your host, Victor Jakes.
Hello, I'm Victor Jakes. Welcome to the Las Vegas Review-Journal's Nevada School Board Debate Series. Today's debate is between the two candidates running for Clark County School District Board of Trustees, Seat E. Joining me tonight are School Board President Lola Brooks and Alexis Salt. We'll start by giving each candidate 1 minute to make an opening statement. Trustee Brooks, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Lola Brooks. I'm a macro social worker and a data scientist. I am currently representing District E and serving as the board president. I'm seeking re-election because it's very important during this upcoming transition to make sure that we have experienced board members who can transition us back to in-person school at some point.
Thank you, Trustee Brooks. Alexis, go ahead.
My name is Alexis Salt, and I am running to represent the parents, educators, and students of District E on the Clark County School Board of Trustees. I want to thank the RJ for hosting us this evening. I've been a teacher for 15 years and a mom of a CCSD student for nearly as long. I know what our students, staff, and community need to succeed in the new normal and in the return to normal. I've worked in all kinds of schools, and I am committed to helping create a functional board of trustees that our community can be proud of. One that puts the needs of students and children first. To learn more about me and our mission, visit alexissalt.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexis. Trustee Brooks, we'll start with you. As we film this in early September, and as you referenced, almost all CCSD instruction is online. You voted for that decision to start the school year without much in-person instruction. Can you explain your rationale for that decision? And when do you think students and teachers should return to the classroom?
I think that was the best decision to ensure the health and safety of our students and our families and our community. So I would love to see students return to school as soon as possible, and that is definitely my goal. But I do have to consider the health and safety of the broader community, and that's what the decision was based on.
So do you have any time frame for parents on when students will go back to the classroom?
There's some students that are in the classroom already that are in rural districts, so we're looking to see how that works. And then also we're looking at data from the health department to determine when our numbers are small enough so that we can actually start having some of those conversations.
Thank you, Trustee. Alexis, same question for you. Did you agree with the decision to start the school year mostly online? And when do you think students and teachers should return?
Thank you. Yeah, I think I did agree with the decision, and I think we should have started planning for a full-time distance education the day after we closed schools. Instead, we were married to this unrealistic hybrid plan, and now we're kind of stuck building the plane as we fly it. Parents and families have shown tremendous patience with us, and I want to thank them for that. To return, we have to make sure we can do it safely, including but not limited to in any way. We need PPE. We need to make sure that we can take temperatures of people when they're coming into the buildings. And most importantly, we need a consistent downward trend in new cases that's more than just a statistical blip. I would say probably 2 weeks of consistent downward trending data would be something that I would look for in a vote to go back to school.
Thank you, Alexis. Alexis, perhaps the most important decision the school board has to make is hiring the superintendent. What are your thoughts on Superintendent Jesus Jara's job performance?
So as of right now, I don't think I would vote to retain Dr. Jara in his contract. I feel like we need a superintendent who has contacts, relationships, and experience in the Nevada political arena. Right now, sadly, our focus is on Dr. Jara and the board when it needs to be on helping the families and students of CCSD. I would wish him well, no ill will, but I think that it's time for our district to go in a new direction, and to do that, we need someone new. I also strongly believe in the ability of communities to solve their own problems. And in order to do that, I really think that we need a Nevadan at the helm of the district and in this important role.
Thank you, Alexis. I want to just have a brief follow-up. Do you have any candidates that you think would be good for the role?
Oh, I have many, but none I have discussed with anybody or would feel comfortable saying out loud.
Not even the voters. You don't want to give them a hint just to who you'd be thinking of?
Okay, so I will give you a person who I don't think would want the job. So to give you somebody like who I would be thinking of, but not that exact person, I think somebody like Christian Kiliani would be a fantastic superintendent for Clark County School District.
Thank you, Alexis. Trustee Brooks, what are your thoughts on the superintendent's job performance?
I think we've focused a lot on this recently, and I've been very candid with the superintendent and providing him direct feedback about what my expectations are and what I would expect him to change. We revamped the evaluation process to make sure that there was an avenue for that to take place. I do want to caution the community that we actually have a trend in this state for superintendent turnover, and the problem is that when you have inconsistent leadership and you change out leaders pretty frequently, then it's very hard for you to make progress towards any of your goals because they're constantly being reset. So instead of divorcing our current superintendent, my advice for the community would be to work through the kinks and to be very clear with your expectations and then make sure that we're actually making progress towards those goals.
So I think you've hinted at it, but I want to just, ask you specifically, would you vote to renew his contract?
I can't really say that as a sitting trustee.
Okay, fair enough. Stick with us. Our school board debate will continue in just a moment.
All your listeners and followers, the best name of any podcast in the world is podcast.
Nobody's ever done it. Nobody's ever faked
Not that we
their
know
death.
of.
No.
When you work with Prince, you gotta get used to the fact that he changes musicians like underwear. You know, like
Tom Brady.
Who?
And Tom Brady, he's a quarterback in the Boston area.
I'm not sure who you're talking about.
Get ready for every Raiders game with us. Vegas Nation Game Day will give you everything you need to know about each week's matchup.
I'm excited.
Sundays at 9 a.m. starting in September on Your View. Vegas Nation Game Day coming this September.
You're watching the general election debate for Clark County School District Board of Trustees, Seat E. It's part of an ongoing series of debates produced by the Las Vegas Review-Journal to inform local voters about these races. Trustee Brooks, several weeks ago, there was a meeting about Superintendent Jara and whether or not to basically have him continue to be the superintendent. I think I could safely characterize that meeting as heated, and some of the board members didn't like how the meeting ended. They thought it ended too abruptly. Looking back on it now, how do you think you handled that meeting?
I think that there were many mistakes in that meeting that took place, starting with how the meeting came about, starting with the fact that it was an attempt to circumvent the real evaluation process for the superintendent. I wish that it would have been handled correctly from the beginning. I do also wish that we would have heard the rest of what people wanted to say, because I realized that there were some hurt feelings from that, and it wasn't our intention, but we also weren't interested in violating the superintendent's contract either.
Thank you, Trustee Brooks. Alexis, you've been a teacher for 15 years. Should part of teachers' evaluation be based on student achievement?
I think yes, if we can find a fair way to assess achievement. Right now we have a situation where we have companies that come in and they sell us their silver bullet solutions. They come in with their tests and they tell us that, your students are failing in one standard or another, and then they are the people who sell us the solution. I think that we should move all of this in-house. I think we should be having teachers Clark County teachers create our assessment. I think that assessment should be culturally fair. It shouldn't be biased. It should be something that is relative to our kids. And then absolutely under those conditions, I do think it is appropriate to have assessment as part of my evaluation. When you're asking my kids to read a poem about snow and none of them have ever seen snow, that's kind of difficult, to judge me on, perceptions my kids have that they've never experienced before.
Thank you, Alexis. Trustee Brooks, I want to ask you about this as well. Should teacher or student testing be part of teacher's evaluation, and if so, what percentage?
I think there is a tendency to rely too heavily on testing and assessments, and I think a lot of the issue is that sometimes we use assessments to give you a snapshot of a student's success, but it doesn't necessarily correlate to being used to guide instruction, or sometimes it's just a test and it's related to school performance plans and things like that. So I think there is a place for assessments. I would say 20% is fair, but I also really think it matters on what the rest of their evaluation consists of. So I would have to know what the whole rubric is versus just picking a percentage.
Thank you, Trustee. Trustee Brooks, as you know, the district is currently required to receive permission from parents before beginning sex education, which is called an opt-in system. There's been a push to change that to an opt-out system, where unless parents object, their children receive sex ed. Which system do you favor?
I favor opt-out because there are so many people that are already opting in, but I also realize this is a divisive issue, and I think our focus right now needs to be on reopening schools safely and making sure that kids can receive in-person instruction.
Thank you, Trustee Brooks. Alexis, same question for you. Do you support an opt-in or an opt-out system when it comes to sex ed?
Absolutely. I unequivocally support an opt-out system for sex education in Clark County. As a teacher, I know that many of our kids are in situations where it's difficult to get parental permission for just about anything. And sadly, many of these kids, sex ed at school is the only real sexual education they receive. I 100% will advocate and support the rights of parents to opt their children out of sex ed. However, as a classroom teacher, I have taught my fair share of pregnant middle schoolers. And when you sit in a classroom with a pregnant middle schooler, it changes your perspective. These are children whose parents never spoke to them about sex ed. And because of our current system, they couldn't get a permission slip signed. So I once had one little girl who literally did not know how she became pregnant. She was 3 months from giving birth and did not know how this had happened to her. We need to do better.
Thank you, Alexis. Alexis, last fall, the Clark County Education Association used the threat of a strike to successfully push for a larger pay increase. As you probably know, strike threats by a public union are illegal under Nevada law. If you're elected, would you support taking legal action against a union that threatened to strike?
Absolutely not. Regardless of my personal issues with CCA, I will never, ever support taking legal action against any entity that wants to strike for better conditions. That said, I didn't think the strike, because it had no support at the state or national level, I didn't see how it was going to get very far. However, I still showed up and voiced my support and spoke in favor of the conditions that, would allow this to continue. My mother was fired in a strike. My mother was an air traffic controller. So I understand probably better than most the real implications that come along with that sort of legal action. Everything in my childhood was different because my mother was let go as the result of her striking. So I will always support unions, and I will always support that sacred solidarity of a union.
Thank you, Alexis. Trustee Brooks, same question for you. Did you support taking legal action last year when CCA threatened to strike?
Luckily, we did not have to take legal action, and it didn't come to that. I have always tried to collaborate with every bargaining unit to try to reach a consensus before it gets there. Unfortunately, that was a negative situation, but employees have the right to organize and express themselves in the way that they feel, is necessary. But as a sitting member of a board, I have a legal obligation to follow NRS. That's the unfortunate reality, is that sometimes it's not about my feelings or my perspective on things. It's what are my legal obligations as a sworn officer to uphold the Nevada Constitution.
Thank you, Trustee Brooks. And stay tuned. The debate will continue right after these messages.
With so much excitement building around the Raiders and their inaugural season in Las Vegas, the fans want to be heard. The launch of Vegas Nation Fan Zone is their answer. That's right, Raiders fans can sound off on all things Raiders, from players to coaches to even the new Allegiant Stadium. Vegas Nation Fan Zone is accessible 24/7 and allows fans to generate and upload their own posts for lively interaction. Simply go to fanzone.vegasnation.com to sign up today.
Welcome back. Thank you for sticking with us. You're watching the debate for Clark County School District Trustee Seat E. Trustee Brooks, this question is for you. There's been a push to allow transgender students to participate in activities based on their gender identity. Do you support allowing a biological boy who says he's a girl to participate in girls' sports?
I support the rights of transgender students in whatever manner they would like to express their gender identity. So yes.
Thank you, Trustee. Alexis, same question for you. If a biological boy says he's a girl, should he be allowed to participate in girls' sports?
So I think first we need to say transgender men are men, transgender women are women. But in regards to sports, I feel that this can be handled on like a case-by-case basis by the gender support team and the athletic director. I really think that fair play is very important, but this is something that the LGBTQ community favors as well. What I would favor is having some transgender activists sit on this committee and see what sort of solutions we can come to, because we want to make sure that we provide access to sports for all of our kids, because sports are so important. They build character, they build teamwork. So we have to find that balance between accessibility and fairness for everybody. And I think if we involve the transgender community, they would be willing partners to help us figure out ways to make sure sports are fair for everybody.
Thank you, Alexis. Alexis, as you know, the school district has its own police force. Should there be police in middle and high schools, or does the mere presence of officers enable the school to prison pipeline?
In a perfect world, there would be no police in schools, but I don't think that we live in a perfect world. And I know that it's important to keep other kids and staff safe. I think that what we need to do is we need to have an investment in real professional development in this school district towards restorative justice, and then we need real training on PBIS, because what we have right now is a situation where it differs from school to school. So kids transfer, they don't know what to expect. I believe that causes a lot of the incidents of violence that we see that cause police to be involved in schools. I think we also need to look at the societal ills. You know, if we have middle and high school students using drugs, for example, that we need to figure out why. That is not something we should be taking punitive action against. We should really be looking at social workers, the school psychologists, and ways to really replace the police on our campuses.
Thank you very much, Alexis. Trustee Brooks, what about you? Is there a place for police officers in middle and high schools?
Thank you for the question. I think there is a place. I would like to see some of what Alexis mentioned be more of a focus. So restorative justice practices do work, but staff does have to be adequately trained, and they have to have the resources to make it work. You also have to have manageable class sizes so that behavior issues don't bubble up. You have to have manageable caseloads for social workers. And then police on campus should not just be there for the negative. Sometimes you can, instead of arresting someone, you can de-escalate a situation. And sometimes if you're trained adequately, you're able to diffuse a situation, and police are trained a little bit better than that as compared to school administrators. So yes, but they have to address situations knowing that they are the front-facing entity for parents and for students.
Thank you, Trustee. Trustee Brooks, students in CCSD's magnet high schools are disproportionately Asian and female, while African American students and male students are underrepresented. Should the district eliminate entrance requirements to high school magnet programs in an attempt to reduce these racial disparities?
I don't look at that as reducing anything. The problem is it's a matter of equity. So to get into some of the high school level programs, you have to have access at the middle school to take higher level math classes. And if you don't have those classes offered and they're not available to you, then the issue isn't that the kid can't succeed in a magnet school. The issue is they don't have an equitable opportunity to even apply to a magnet school. So I believe in leveling the field. I believe in making sure everybody has an equitable access to some of those services that they equally pay tax dollars to fund.
All right, thank you, Trustee.
You're welcome.
Alexis, same question for you. Should there be entrance requirements to magnet schools or not?
So I think we need to say equity isn't enough. We need justice, and justice starts with elementary school. By the time kids get to those middle school math classes, it's too late for many of them. The attitudes that have already formed towards school. So if we want to have more African American males represented in any place in public schools, we need to start by making a concentrated effort towards helping those kids in elementary school and helping them develop the attitudes towards school that will get them to take those middle school math classes, which are offered at most middle schools. That said, I do feel as though some of the magnet programs, we don't want to lower our standards. We want to scaffold. So I would be in favor not of loosening the requirements, but of scaffolding them for a year or two, where we take kids who are currently sitting in 8th grade, who have not had a just education, and we scaffold those requirements, and we create systems in those schools where we help those kids be successful. Because if we just dump, oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm cutting it close on time. Thank you.
No, you're good.
We'll be back with our final segment in just a moment.
The Vegas Nation podcast is your source for all your Las Vegas Raiders news. Subscribe and get fast takes and smart coverage. Download the Vegas Nation app, check out vegasnation.com, and stay up to date with your Las Vegas Raiders.
Alexa, play my flash briefing.
Here's what's new in today's news.
Stay in the loop of the latest information in the Las Vegas Valley with the Las Vegas Review Journal flash briefing. Every day, we will provide you with everything you need to know in news, business, weather, entertainment, and sports. Go to the Alexa app and search LVRJ News Briefing. Then say, Alexa, play my flash briefing to hear 3 minutes of the most important information in Las Vegas.
Welcome back to our school board debate. It's time for closing statements. I've got 45 seconds for each of you. Alexis, go ahead.
The months and years ahead will be difficult, as we all know. We need compassionate, creative, courageous leadership now more than ever. Our children demand it. Trustee Brooks and I have very different visions for the future of our district. And the question is, who do you trust? I've spent a career working as a teacher in Clark County School District for our kids. And with your help, we are going to change this district for the better for all of our kids. To get involved, please visit my website, alexisalt.com. I want to thank our hosts again at the RJ, and I want to thank all of you for your careful consideration. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you so much, Alexis. Trustee Brooks, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Lola Brooks. I'm currently serving as the board chair. You can learn more about me, including reading my resume and my background at voteforlola.com. I want voters to please reflect on what's important when it comes to school boards, making sure that there is experience, not just in this race, but please look at other races to make sure that you elect people who can get us through the challenges ahead.
Thank you very much, Trustee Brooks. Thank you so much for both of you for joining us and participating. And thank you for watching this edition of Nevada School Board Debates. Remember, you can find this program and more information on all the school board races at reviewjournal.com. We'll see you next time.